Salut tout le monde. Petite question, qui parle seulement anglais ce soir? Who only, who only speak English?
En général.
In general.
Ce soir.
Who only speak French?
Qui parle les deux, hein.
Ah oui, qui parle seulement français? Okay, bon, I guess I'm gonna go in English tonight. Who doesn't speak? First, I would like to thank Stingray. Thanks Stingray for hosting the meetup this month. Honestly, without the support of the community, those meetups wouldn't, be happening. So, a big thanks to them first. Cool. So tonight I want to share a little bit about Shadcn. We had the opportunity to play with Shadcn in our project, and I want to show you why we picked Shadcn, what are the other opportunities, how do we look up for a UI library nowadays, and what it's made for, what are the advantages, the disadvantages, and I hope by the end of this presentation that you'll get a chance to know if Shadcn is the right fit for you and open up your mind on the styling React side. Who am I? I'm Franck. Nice to meet you all. I can say that I used to work at Stingray a couple of years ago. A really great place to work for. So if you get a chance to have a job here, highly recommend it. Fun facts about myself. I almost wear my Stingray sweater tonight. I still have it in my closet and I wear it almost every week. So couldn't tonight, it's like shred apart, so I could probably ask for a new one, but still love it, it's comfortable. Apart from that, I recently started my own company, Tail. I also have some of my colleagues here tonight. So if you have the chance to meet them. So what do we do about Tail? If I can introduce ourselves a little bit more. We started developing applications for tech students to find internships. And we are recently moving towards creating applications to complement those towards the companies to help them match with students looking for internships. We believe we have a great recipe to find the best potential candidates for your opportunities. So if you're interested to learn more about that, feel free to jump in a conversation with me and with the team. Happy to have a talk. Why am I here tonight? One of the things that I would love to do for the company and one of the things I'm looking forward is how can we contribute to the open source community and give back? Those are like really important values to me. So as for this presentation, I will show some pinned version of Shadcn as well. And throughout all of that, we try to make it as much open source as possible. And if you have any feedback about that, I'll be happy to hear more about that. So quick story about Shadcn, what it is, how and when it started. All started back the beginning of last year, January 2023. And Shadcn, as we'll have the chance to see it, it's not like something like a library you install. It's more like headless UI. They provide you tools to install React components onto your project. And with those components, you can start fresh with styling your application. It's a free open source, everything with that. They have amazing support for all of the amazing frameworks we have nowadays. Throughout this presentation, I'll be using Next.js. That's what I've been the most familiar with in the past month, so just going to make it easier. But they have support for pretty much everything. Bare bones React until all the options you have. So what is Shadcn made of? Like we've just mentioned that Shadcn doesn't really it's not a thing as such, like it's headless UI, but like what is Shadcn? So with Shadcn, you'll get the chance to have like a couple of things coming up with it. Some of them are like things coming in it. Some of things are like more like best practices they use in the project. And that's one of the things I would have the chance to talk about a little bit more. To name a few, Tailwind CSS, Radix UI, Richard, Zod, React Hook Form, CSS variables, HLS, a bunch of stuff like that. I'm gonna have the chance to like go deeper. And what I believe made Shadcn like really interesting is their toolkit, how to get started. The documentation is pretty nice. So on top of the tooling they have, extensive documentation, how to get started, multiple framework support. One of the things I'm really impressed about is their V0 implementation, lift mode, a lot of example components available for you to use directly, and their theme customization. In all of those, we'll have the chance to see it, but there's a couple of like alternatives to Shadcn, which would probably excel on the component side or match Shadcn on the component side. So if we just go over the Shadcn website quickly, what you'll see is a page that doesn't have much, some like template and examples to provide you. But if you go to the component section, Shadcn comes with a lot of components that are like built in within the library for you to get started. Just to name a few, you have like buttons, cards, badges, charts, checkboxes. All of those are like headless components you can import in your project. So what I mean by that is if we look at the get started, let me just go back to the installation steps. You start your project with initializing Shadcn. Shadcn is going to install the bare bone dependencies. So think about Tailwind, for example, as one of them. And with that in mind, you just add the extra component that we just have seen. And those components will make the project start. They're all going to be installed in a component UI folder in that matter. By default, you have nothing. Like you have to install pretty much everything you want. So as a headless UI, you have the term of package size. If you think of like libraries and package size, you get the bare minimum. And if you want, like, let's say you don't want like charts, for example, you don't have to get charts by default. Like you just add it whenever you use it in your project, if you ever use it. But yeah, let me go back to the presentation. We'll have the chance to go deeper in like a real life example. I'm going to cover that at the end. Perfect. Cool. So I've made a workshop demo for today, just for the sake of like getting a little bit faster with the timeline and not bore you with just like downloading components and waiting for that. Documentation again is great. So if you run the npx create the app for Next.js and you install Shadcn UI, you'd get the bare bone project, which looks a little bit like that. You'd get the component UI folder, which has nothing. I've installed a couple of them already. So as you can see right there, I've installed the accordion, button, card, drop-down menu. And that's pretty much it. The rest is like pretty much Next.js stuff. You get the Tailwind config. So one of the first things I want to go back to, like on the features from Shadcn that I mentioned, is I mentioned HLS. HLS, if you haven't heard of it, is hue, saturation, lightness. So it's pretty much like Xcode, RGB in another format. Why they picked this format over pretty much like known Xcode and stuff like that? I believe from my standpoint, that's just my personal opinion on that, but HLS make it really easy to customize colors. So you can get to pick the hue you want, like so basically the color grade. And with the saturation and lighting, you can play with grading. So you can create darker colors, lighter colors, just from using the same format. They also have variables, CSS variables. I would say from a Tailwind perspective, let me just go back like 1 second. I started learning all of that. Like I'm not a UI guy at all. All you will see tonight is me learning UI. And as I first was introduced to Tailwind, I was pretty interested about it. I love Tailwind. I'm a big guy that like loves Tailwind. What you'll see from Tailwind that I really think it shines the most is its combination with React, where you can make it component about the CSS element you want to bring to your project. So what you usually have for the CSS style, let me just go back to the global CSS file. With Shadcn, we'll get a bunch of CSS variables, which in combination of Tailwind makes it really interesting to plug and play standard colors for your project. So one of the couple of examples I can think of that are really great that I've used a lot in our projects are the primary colors. So for example, primary colors are defined as HLS colors. So if you were to look up the 222 version, would probably be dark, like almost like black. And you also have foregrounds, secondary colors, foreground, secondary, muted. So all of those variables is going to make it like really nice and the look and feel on the app is going to be really great. and you can customize those and even like use them for your personal components. You get by default both variables in light and dark mode. Really passionate about having dark modes in. Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, yeah, it's supposed to be that, but apparently it's not.
Sinon, on va dans les settings.
Yeah. Avec la démo.
Non, tu vas dans settings, ouais. Contrôle. Ah, c'est Webstorm.
Ouais, c'est.
Vas-y, retourne.
Yeah, non.
Ah, c'est pas VS Code.
Yeah.
Je voudrais savoir, en fait, là, c'est vraiment pour le rendement des sites dynamiques et statiques pour une ou l'autre, en fait. Est-ce que c'est vraiment...
Can you come again?
Est-ce que cela, en fait, c'est vraiment pour le rendement statique ou dynamique ou une combinaison?
So yeah, maybe something I should have mentioned. Like Shadcn comes on top of whatever React project you're creating. So like whatever you get with React, Shadcn is just like steroid on top of it. So dynamic, static, whatever you do, like you'll get all of that from React. Shadcn is just like boosting your UI libraries on top of it. So yeah, one of those variables extensively use the primary colors. We'll get a chance to see them in action, like how it looks like. What we've seen on the Shadcn UI, like the web page, it's pretty much like what you'll get from the library. Personally feeling, not really big fan of like their colors, so we've made it like different colors. But if I can go back to the project structure, we've covered like colors. The next part is installing components. So just as an example, just try to do that in a live demo. Let's say we were to like import like another component that we don't have on the project at the moment. I would simply go to the component section, select the component I'm looking for. Let's say badges. Could go to badges and just grab the CLI installation command. It's leveraging npx to install the packages. And it doesn't add any dependencies to your project. It's pretty much adding it to your folder structure. So you're going to see pop up the badge section. So if we get a look at like what it does, you'll get a bunch of like CSS variant that you can use. So it's great, like depending on like your style and what you're using on Shadcn, they have pre-made the best practices for you. So you can get the default badges, you can have secondary badges, destructive badges, outline badges. So you get the component for it. Component is pretty small. It doesn't do much. It's a div with inline styling on it. You're free to pretty much do whatever you want with that. You can change the style and make it customized for your needs. So if I just go back to the page, let's say I use the badge. Let me get it right. So if I just use the badge that we've just imported, we're going to have a nice looking badge from the library. Probably I'm going to have to put it some text. All right. And you'll see a couple of like elements from the demo, but I want to cover it. It's not impressive, like nothing is going to impress you with that, but I'm just going to show you how like Shadcn works, just to give you a look and feel in the beginning step. If you've never used it before. So I've just used the text badge at the bottom. Let me zoom that. I'm going to show you the other components I've imported, but basically the other components are pretty much like components from Shadcn. So this one is the accordion that we've seen on the component UI. This is like an example I'm going to cover a little bit. This is dark and light mode. So the text, like let's say I want to use a different variant, I can use a different variant, and the variants I'll have, let's say, outline element. So with just that, like we can customize the look and feel. And most of the time, like whatever you're trying to do from a UI perspective, like Shadcn, they have come up with at least a variant of it or a component for it. So if you're ever in the need of like designing something, always think twice about like, is it like, am I creating a new wheel for like the same thing? You may have needs to customize it, change colors, whatever. You can either play with it from the direct class names or the variant. It's extending Tailwind CSS at the end of the day. Okay, let me go back to the great documentation. I want to show you a couple of things. If you were to like play with the same thing but in a different way, you could directly copy paste the code from the example if you're interested, or you could also use the V0 setup to play with adding features to your project. So just as an example, I'm not a huge expert on V0 and I haven't used it like extensively, but I can see the potential of using it. You get a render component, you can play with the code, and you get an npx command to install it on your project. So let's say I just go back to installing the project, this one.
But there's more. Also HTML, so you can use it on other framework or static HTML.
Nice. So it gives you like the project structure, and just by using the npx command, you're going to pretty much import like anything you have on the example. So I'm just going to ask you for the name. So demo badge example, pretty much whatever you want. And it's going to add back the badge dependency. And with that badge, we should have a component that was added. So this was the component that we just like tried, that we've seen, like badge text. So we get the component on the component folder, and we can like whatever use it if you want. For a badge, it doesn't really make sense to use V0, but you get the same functionalities for like more complex pages or like subsection of pages, which is going to bring me to the block section. So the block section is kind of their attempt to give you jumpstart in whatever project you're trying to create. So for example, as a startup, and that's going to be one of my closing remarks, but just to bring you the thoughts, let's say you're building a SaaS application. Most of the components you're going to build are going to look and feel the same. And that's where Shadcn shines the most, in my opinion, is gives you this like squared look and feel, where you can have like cards and components and like build your UI from that. So let's say you want to build charts, like you have the opportunity to either use lift mode, which I'm going to cover in a second, or you can play with it in the V0 environment. To talk about lift quickly, that's one of the first time I've seen it on building headless UI. They give you these hover sections where you can just like, hey, I like this this card actually, like with the progress bar, the text and everything. So you can just like go over it, copy it. And from that, I have it in my copy paste. I can just like create a component for it. Demo card. And with that in mind, I can just like paste the component. It's going to use all the necessary component from it. The only thing you won't get from Lift is if you need some dependencies from Shadcn, it's not going to give it for you for free. But since I know it's a progress bar that I need, I can go back to the component section and just add the progress bar. So if I just take that, it's going to add the dependency, and I can start back the project. Sorry about that. Should remove the badge. It's not there anymore. And add my demo card example. All right, so I've just added my card, and there it is. Let's say I want to plug the backend to it, create some functions. You know, I want the data to be dynamic. I can like use whatever the framework is behind Next.js, or you know, whatever you have, Express, and feed in the new data. You'll have the UI component for it. So it makes it like nice and easy to just set up like projects and UI element from scratch. And you get pretty much like all the examples they have. I would say they don't have like the most advanced, or you know, they have a limited number of examples you can use, but at least they give you some beginning jumpstart to, you know, look at how you want to use things. So let's say you want to use tables, they have like tables example. The list is not like that exhaustive, but you get some stuff from it. One of the last thing I wanted to show you quickly, I'm not going to cover it too deep, but you get the light and dark mode. if you install the Next theme that they propose for Next.js and you plug in the components, you have a dark mode drop-down menu that you can use, which is going to give us the look and feel that we've seen on the page. And without doing anything, like from what I've done, like the CSS and everything was there from the beginning. I haven't done anything. I can just like change the theme, and I have a dark and light theme by default. Don't know about you guys, but as a non-UI developer, I love that for free. Everything is also animated. Like if you look at the drop-down section, the accordion specifically, like you have animation on the right side. All of that is coming for free. Like I haven't have to like design rotation, drop-down effect, and everything like that. You may not be like familiar with what it does behind, but it gives us the opportunity to customize it, which is one of the things I love, which I'm going to introduce quickly. One of the potential you can do in terms of like customization. I'm not going to go too deep, but just to tease you a little bit. Hopefully, it's going to like impress you. Let's say I take the tabs section. So, for example, the tab section is what they give you like as tabs to come back and forth between tabs and like specific content. It's a vertical layout, and for example, that's what I've used recently as of like last week to redo a little bit the landing page that we have on Tail. And just as like an example, if I show you like what we have this same tab section. So this is one of the tabs that we have on the landing page, which is the exact same as you see right there, account and password. It's just that we've made it horizontal instead of vertical. And we've changed the primary colors to our own theme colors. And we've just changed the template content inside each card. So instead of being like a forms with account and password, we just made it so like we have title, description, images, pretty much anything we're interested in. So this is kind of the power of like Shadcn. Once you start to get the hang on it, you start to see like what you could do with it. And even as a non-UI developer, you start to see the reusability and the usage of it. Yeah, question?
So my understanding of Shadcn, because I've looked at it before the
Yeah.
presentation, was that in allowing or in installing it into your project directly, it allows ownership of the components. And as you saw, as you mentioned here, you modified one of those components to go from horizontal to a vertical approach. My question is like, because there's versions for each of the components and things like that. What is the upgrade experience for components that you've modified?
That's so the question, if I can repeat for the audience, is how do we manage a version upgrade on Shadcn, especially from the timeline and when we own the component and we can like customize them and upgrade them. So I would say for that specific question, there is a mixed answer for that. I've had the chance to use it after a jump start of like timeline. So the project started in 2023. Started using it end of last year. So it was much more mature than at the beginning. So I haven't had the opportunity to have issue with migrating components. Most of them are already like set in stone. So like in terms of upgrades, you won't have too much to do with it. And as you can see, like the files are like pretty small. So whenever if you have come into a situation where, let's say the accordion changed on the library and like you have to customize it, you can do a diff. I would recommend a diff and just like import the changes that are like relevant to you. And you own the code, so you also own the upgrade that you're interested in. Some of the section is going to be like a little bit more exhaustive. Like this file is kind of okay, 60 line. Badges are super small. If you get the form section, something I haven't covered is the form section. Like from a React standpoint, if I just can like expand a little bit on React, like rather than not Shadcn, but discovered React Hook Form not that long ago. And honestly, React Hook Form, regardless of like Shadcn and whatever, I love the library. I would recommend it. And just so happened that Shadcn, that's what they recommend for you to use whenever you're building forms. So that just like encouraged me to continue use it in the future. And that's what I love about Shadcn. Like it helps you make UI decision on how you should proceed. If ever you agree with them, and if ever you don't, you own the code. You can migrate, use whatever you want, Let's say like one of the biggest thing you might not agree with is Redux UI behind. If you don't like Redux UI, you can use whatever you want behind it, and you're free to do so. Just to show you the form quickly, maybe as an example. React Hook form, honestly, one of the best things that could ever happen to me. Let's say I go to the contact form on the landing page. One of the best practices they have in place is to use Zod with React Hook form. So you have TypeScript typing, and what you'll get from that is just like a safety check for your types, your data structure. It's a controlled form environment instead of like uncontrolled form. You get functions, you can play with async stuff. Honestly, like, if you're curious to like look at React Hook form, if you don't know about it, that's great. You'd have like a verbose structure that's maybe like the only downside. Like whenever you're creating a form, you have to wrap it with a form and put like form items, form fields, whatever. But apart from that, it's pretty simple. So one of the things I would like to wrap up with that, if I can go back to that, I've covered it a little bit, like what is Shadcn good for, what is like not good for. I think it's great if you want to kickstart a project, you don't know where to start, and you're not like familiar with UI. It's a great place to start. Like if you don't like it, you can always like customize it and migrate from it in the future. But if you do like it, like you can start, enabling your team with, especially like if you have a team who's not like UI is like focused, it's great to enable them. I've seen it with the team. I don't want my team to spend like hours figure out like how should I corner radius my button, or stuff like that. What typo should I use? What color should I pick? Everything is built in. You use React components, which are stylized with your need, and you're good to go. One last thing as well, maybe from a personal standpoint, I'm a backend developer, so I love things that are square and neat. If you like things that are like a little bit more flowy, Shadcn is not for you. They love cards, they love titles, they love like things that are ordered and everything. So SaaS application are a great fit for that, in my personal opinion. Depending, I was able to make like some good use for the landing page, but everything else that wasn't like square and neat, like I had to use custom CSS for that. And maybe to introduce like one of the latest thing that on our side that we've done, we've kind of took Shadcn with our own custom theme. So if I go to our, just quickly our tailed library, we have a tailed UI version of it. Supposed to. Is it just GitHub is down? I have it open on this one. So it's basically like Shadcn, but just like package. One of the things we've added to it to make it like simpler that you might be looking to do if you want to like enable your team on the UI side. We've added storybooks. Storybooks are great if you want to like try it out and see how it looks and feel before you like put it elsewhere in your other projects. And we've just like basically played with the CSS config from the Tailwind, whatever it's down. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. If you have any question, looking at time, probably are free to ask them after the presentation. I will be around. And yeah, I was happy to give this presentation. Hopefully, reconcile you with UI and impress you with what you could do.